$100 bill in that, I get it, you can grab it.
5:30, I'll call the meeting of the Ramsey County Commission to order. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank everybody who braved the cold. It's chilly. First item on the agenda, approval of the minutes. Any additions, corrections to the December 6th minutes? Well, they're quite lengthy and a lot of different motions and appointments through there. We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approval of the final bills for 2022. Some in our packets and some additional on our desk. If there's any questions on that, I'm sure our auditor would be able to answer those for us.
One for the highway department, the file motion leader.
Candy, this is just all the closeout, basically, right?
Yeah, we tried to get everything, everything, so there's no more check writing for the year.
2022.
Except for what maybe you have.
Yeah, it'd be like utilities, like diesel fuel or something, that'd be the only.
Yeah, but that's usual, yeah.
I'm going to approve.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the final bills for 2022. Roll call, please.
Otis,
Aye.
Wilhelmie,
Aye.
Volk,
Aye.
Gessner,
Aye.
Britt.
Aye. Motion carries. Approval of the agenda. Any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Yeah, I'd like to ask some questions about that lot and pan with the trees on it. That's one maybe.
Lot and pen. Okay, any other additions to the agenda? If not, a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I will move. Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Agenda is approved. Roger is not here this evening, but he did have a item in the packet from Martin Mechanical for an engineering proposal for the new generator.
I think it was the only packet, right?
The only one that we received, yes. Yeah. And I think we advertised and kind of struck out with any additional advertisements. But Martin Mechanical did submit a proposal for our 300 kW generator to replace the old 100 kW generator for the courthouse, and proposed scope of work is $25,000. And the reason being that they needed a engineering estimate or an engineer on this project was the overall cost of estimate for the generators over $300,000, I believe, and I think anything over 150 we needed.
Anything over 100.
Anything over 100 we needed engineering for, so
100,000.
100,000. So.
What are you looking for a motion to take this?
Pardon me?
We're looking for a motion basically to take this.
Yep, to accept this proposal. That way we can get it signed, get them started on the drawings and the design for And
I'll
that's
motion
good.
to approve the contract with the 25,000 to move forward on the generator design.
With Martin Mechanical, okay?
And I would second that.
Then moved and seconded. Let Andy catch up here.
I had a short time going.
Okay. Any further discussion? For those new commissioners, this is something that's been on our radar for a number of years. Finally coming to fruition. And the original design of that generator that we have out there was just for the basement. And that would be the Emergency Operations Center. And as needs increased, certainly with the Department of Health or the Public Health Office and some of their requirements for vaccination temperature control, that was something that was needed. And certainly we have essential services throughout the facility. So that 100 kW generator wasn't, that to natural gas, so we don't have to refresh the diesel fuel that's in the tank and other problems that come up with that, so. All right, any further discussion?
If the estimate's 300,000, that's actually pretty good.
Well, we don't,
That was-
that was a 2 year ago estimate, so, yeah, 300,000 would be, you know,
So 10%, I mean, we're below 10% on the engineering fees, so that's.
you know, so
Fair.
that would certainly be fair, so. But they do have a schedule of expenses over that if they go beyond that scope of work. So they do have that in there as well, so. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Martin Mechanical Engineering is approved. Kevin?
All right. First of all, we have an invoice from KLJ, for the engineering on that fill-up overlay we did in Ramsey County, South Ramsey. It's for $2,781.27. There may be one more invoice from the DOT for that project yet, but I guess I'm looking for a motion to pay for that.
So moved. Second.
Good motion and second that we go ahead and pay the invoice from KLJ 2781.27. Roll call, please.
Gessner,
Aye.
Wilhelmie,
Aye.
Volk.
Aye.
Otis,
Aye.
Brett.
All right, also we got our cutting edges, our winter cutting edges from Butler, and they cost $7,773.66. So a motion to pay for that invoice.
I will move. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Question I have, Kevin,
Yes.
cutting edges,
Mhm.
how often do we get them? And that semi-load that we had about a year ago,
Mhm.
have we gone through that?
No, they were curved edges, for the semi-load were curved edges that go underneath the motor graders. These are for the plowed trucks
Okay.
and the wings, any wings that we have, whether it be a motor grader or a truck, or that's where these will go.
I know there's different edges for different purposes and different equipment. Just needed to clear that from my mind.
No, that's fine, I understand.
All right, a motion to pay that and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Otis,
Aye.
Volk.
Aye.
Gessner,
Aye.
Wilhelmie,
Aye.
Brett.
Aye.
The fire 5-year road plan is gonna take some time. If you want to do something else, that's fine.
And maybe we can jump into our legislative delegation, if that'd be okay with
That's
you?
fine.
Is that okay with the other commissioners? I know their time is valuable, so appreciate them coming in. Well, introductions, we have a lot of new commissioners around and we have some new legislators. So first of all, welcome. I'm Jeff Frith, I'm the chairman of the Ramsey County Commission, and we'll go around and introduce ourselves.
Bill Otis, Blaine Volk.
Paul Wilhelmie.
And do we know Candy?
Candy, Christopherson Auditor.
And go ahead with Representative Johnson. Welcome.
Nice to be here. I'm Dennis Johnson, live south of town here. And welcome to new commissioners. Worked with a lot of different commissioners over the years and seen some of you lobbying over the years on different issues, different positions, and look forward to hearing what you have to say now as commissioners.
And then
Kathy Freilich, and
Kathy.
I live northeast of town. So, yeah, new to this,
welcome.
thank you.
And Senator Askinson.
Yeah, Judy Essenson. I live out on the res south of town, about 20 miles, and have been part of this community for over 40. Worked at the hospital and raised my kids in this community, so it was kind of nice to get, placed in a district that I was actually part of, so.
Well, I'd certainly like to welcome you and thank you for attending tonight, and thank you for putting your name on the ballot and committing your time and dedication to our community. You don't see that often enough, and the dedication and the time that's involved in what you're doing and the endeavor that you've jumped into is applaudable. So thank you all for that, and thank you for coming. And Representative Johnson, the senior member and new Speaker of the House, congratulations on that.
Yeah, so thanks for not calling me the old man. You're so smooth, Jeff.
Well, thank you for being here. Now, I don't know if you want to give us maybe a little preview of the upcoming session, and maybe we can relay some of our needs for what the county may see coming forward.
I think that's, I appreciate you having us, taking the time for us to listen to what the needs are. Obviously, we've heard over the years, some of the needs are still there that we haven't got fixed yet. Some of them, I remember the days when we used to sit here and talk about human services and stuff. I think we've fixed that for the counties, especially Ramsey County is a big winner in that one when you look across the state of the counties. And we can do that in some other areas now to help ease the burden on local property taxes. Would be a nice shift too, to be able to accept some of that from the state level to help you out. With the price of oil, what it's gotten to be, the revenues have streamed into the state funds, and years ago when we started getting this oil money, they created a system where they called the buckets, or fill the bucket and lower to the next bucket. As the money come in, we could eventually go on to buckets or projects that would be not funded unless there's money moving forward. The buckets are all full with what's happened this past year. We don't like to see high oil prices, but it's what happened with the state when we had money. And so, I can regress for just a minute. Special session, we had $1 billion to work with. And we had $13 billion worth of requests across the state to spend that $1 billion. So when I say we have money this session, it's going to be crazy. The amount of requests that come in and all the good things that money could be invested in is we're going to definitely hear. So we look forward to that. I was surprised to hear today our Lieutenant Governor was going back to private life and in the business world, and I've enjoyed working with him. He's been a this community and someone that was, you know, we could, text just about my phone would ding at 11:30 at night and Brent Sanford would visit and so it's the relationship we had there and anxious to meet Tammy and start working with her, but it's a new learning curve again, that's people you get to work with down there. So being a speaker, I ran for that position this session and succeeded in getting that, thanks to Kathy. And vote counts.
I think it was your speech.
Anyway, the drawbacks of being a speaker, certainly you run the flow of the session and so you have that ability and stuff, but I'm gonna miss being the chairman of the Ag Committee, sort of my comfort zone, because that's what we do, and after these many years, you get to know all the commodity groups and work with those folks and the people involved in that industry, so I'll definitely miss that, but being a speaker, I have the ability to be at the table on any committee. If there's a hot issue in any certain committee, I can go on the city that day. I can sit at the table and have a conversation with the bill, but I can't, I'm not a voting member on any issue, so the only vote I get is when it's up on the floor is the final vote, so. Well, it's definitely not my comfort zone yet, but we've had 3 days, so I'm ready for the 3rd of January. We start at 10 o'clock on the 3rd of January. We don't gavel in until noon, but at 10 o'clock we have the tribal state relations address from the tribes, and I'm not sure what tribal chairman's going to give that address this year, so look ahead that far in, but they'll give us their message for an hour, and then we'll have the report from the justices. They'll give their report for an hour. And then we'll gavel it at noon, and at 1 o'clock we'll have the governor's state of the state address, and that pretty much will mirror what he shared with us the other day when we had our pre-session or organizational session. And so we sort of start there and then it gets rolling. That's why we have an organizational session. Everybody gets their committee assignments and sort of gets the feel around who's on your committee and where your committee meets and within a couple of days of beginning the session, there'll be committee hearings. There's so many bills that come out of the interim committees that are pre-filed, and so probably right after Christmas would be a few of us going down and we'll sit with council and determine which bills are appropriate for which committees, whether it goes to human services or Kathy's or agriculture or any of the other committees. And so all the committees have some, so they've got something to start on this first week. There'll be no real floor action till probably the following week when these bills do come back out of committee voted on, so we've got some bills to bring up to the floor, and second week will be short floor sessions just because we won't be that many bills on the calendar yet. But it doesn't take long to get into it and get rolling. It goes quick because it's you start early in the morning and it goes all into the late afternoon. So once we get rolling, it's the first sessions were in the 70s. One session we had very little money, and Representative Doris was our majority leader, and we got out of there in 65 days. You know, the folks that come in and know what we're going to get. Well, they're going to probably get the same as last year, but nonetheless, it's just nothing here to work with. In 65 days, they're out of there. These last 3, 4, 5 sessions we're begging on 80 days. We'll try and save 2-3 days, and so we can get out of there with 77 days or 78 days. But you learn to work the calendar, so you probably don't gavel in that day. You just have committee hearings, so that you don't have to count it against your calendar if you don't gavel in. By the time you count the days if you gavel in on per 4 session. So we sometimes have to do that just so we can get our business done before day 80. So it's a little bit of overview of what we do and interested to hear what you commissioners have to share with us and maybe have some back and forth on what we can do or can't do or take it from there, I guess. So thank you.
Kathy, anything you'd like to?
I think Dennis already said I was on the Human Service Committee, so that's where I wanted to be. That was my first choice, so that was good. I'm excited to learn more about that, although everybody I talk to thinks I'm crazy for wanting that one, so a lot comes through there.
And transportation.
And transportation, sorry, I forgot transportation. Transportation too.
We'll have something for you a little later.
So, yeah, looking forward to it.
Senator Estenson?
I just wanna say, it's a good thing we don't always know what we're getting into when we get a new job, right? Because, I think that's typical over the years, that you never really know what that job's gonna entail till you're into it. I told Kathy by April, we'll know what we're doing. But, I just think it's a real honor to be able to serve, and I think anyone who is interested, I come from an ag and a healthcare background, and yet those were not the two committees I really chose to go to. I feel like I understand those things, and I wanted to be someplace where I didn't. So my first committee is judiciary, and my second committee is actually government and political subs. And I guess I've always been intrigued by, where does all the money come from? And like, what does the state spend their money on? And where do they get their money? And then where does the county get their money? By the way, you guys need more salt on the highways. And then, so maybe you need more money for salt. Roads in North Dakota have been pretty bad. But, and then where does the city government get their money? And how does it all work? And how do these mills work? And how does this work? And so I'm a student. I've always been a student. I'm eager to learn. I certainly want opportunity to hear from the people who are working in these other areas and what their needs are and how do we meet the needs of the people. So I'm excited. I'm definitely a little nervous about it all because I understand that first session for most people is like drinking out of a fire hose. And I just think that the thing that gives me comfort is that everybody did a first session and everybody does their first meetings and everybody starts someplace. And so hopefully, feel free to, I'm here to serve. Feel free to give me a call. I'm eager to learn and I'll always listen.
Wonderful, thank you. If it's okay with the commission, I will start with some questions and asks. And first of all, thank you again, not only for being here tonight, but the state funding that the county receives and has received over the years. Big plus, Prairie Dog, wonderful. That is a huge, huge deal for our roads. So we appreciate that. The one thing that I guess I would like to talk about is our incarceration. And law enforcement, prosecution, and incarcerating of prisoners is a huge expense for Ramsey County. If the state hadn't come in and stepped up and taken on social services for us, we'd never be able to afford both of them. And we're getting to a breaking point, if you would, for our law enforcement, incarceration, prosecution costs. And I don't know, Candy, you've given them the Christmas tree?
No, yours.
Mine's the one with the Christmas tree? Oh, okay. And so you can see by some of those costs, in the past 5 years, we have some numbers from our state's attorney, our sheriff, and our law enforcement center. We're a little under our budget for this year for law enforcement, and for our incarceration, I think it was projected at $1.8 million. And next year, our LEC budget is $2.2 million, and that's housing prisoners. We do have Star Clemensrud, our interim LEC director. And the LEC is comprised of the city of Devils Lake, Ramsey County, Eddy County, Benson County are all the conglomerate of that organization. And we have some issues and problems that we face at the law enforcement center. And Star, I don't know if you wanna pipe in anytime, but we have staffing of correction officers, like anywhere else within the state, it is a problem. One of the issues is not only hiring those individuals, but then getting them trained to be CO certified, correction officer certified within that first year of employment. And it was, 4 years ago that Department of Corrections stopped doing that training. It used to be sent to Bismarck or housed at the police academy or Bismarck State or wherever the classes are gonna be. And basically you had the cost of transportation, that individual salary while they're there, but the class itself was picked up for by the state. Now it's the bigger communities train their own individuals in-house. They have a training officer, they have that type of ability to do that in-house, and they're training their correction officers that way and getting them certified on a quicker basis. Sometimes we don't have that luxury of, because Grand Forks holding the training this week, is Minot holding it next week, is Dickinson holding it some other time. And so we have created an alliance with Lake Region State that's incorporated some of that curriculum into their peace officer training courses. So that's working well. We're fully staffed, I believe, back in corrections.
Yes.
And so we're looking about a year and a half ago, the Department of Corrections came in and put a non-compliance order on the LEC and reduced our number of inmates that we could house down to 50. And they have, 138 standards, Star?
I believe so.
I believe it's 138 standards that you have to meet in order to be in compliance. And they'll do periodic inspections, and if they find you out of compliance, they can reduce you numbers. And so we've been dealing with that. We have a 103 bed facility. We've been down to 50 for a year and a half. And so that creates a problem with, hey, if we're at 48 on a Friday, do we pick up 6 over the weekend? And we've recently run into that problem where we've had some of our counties that are part of the Lake Region Law Enforcement Center have to take their prisoners, their pickups elsewhere. And was it Rugby they had to take them? They had to take them over to Rugby. Heart of America has a facility has some room, and we're able to take them there, but that creates a logistical problem for those deputies, immediately having to be out of service, taking that prisoner up to that facility, getting them booked into that facility, and then having to come back and get into service. And then that individual has to go get picked up for court when court opens on the Monday or the Tuesday or whenever court happens to be. So it becomes a logistical and very expensive proposition.
So Jeff, what is our non-compliance issues for a whole year and a half or 18 months?
Well, they varied, and sometimes when they come back, they would change, and some of them were policy, some of them were personnel. For a lot of the times, it was just lack of personnel, lack of trained personnel. So I think we're on the right direction there, knock on wood kind of thing, and can maintain the 18, 20 correction staff in the back. They're looking at hiring maybe part-time or what they'd call flex where somebody would be a CO certified individual that's maybe not a part-time person, but can be called in and fill a position if somebody needs a holiday, a vacation, a sick day. You know, because these are all individuals too that, you know, normal life happens. And if they were to be sick or something were to happen that they need a day off, you know, and if you don't have anybody to fill that position, then you're short. So, and the state requires so many staff on hand to meet the number of prisoners that you have, so, or inmates, and so that creates an issue. And then if male and female have to be separated, and you have to have female staff on when you have female prisoners, obviously, and those different reasons. And then just overall costs and doing business has raised considerably over the years. So, and I did have some numbers from our state's attorney that our criminal cases for 2022 will be down. We're down almost 22% filings, it looks like, from 2021. But it's still, you know, over 4,000 criminal cases filed, which is just an astronomical number. That's just Ramsey County. So that's my little spiel, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. You know, if there would be any help, support that the state could find for incarcerating prisoners, would be greatly appreciated. I think there's a 10 mil cap on incarceration, and a mil in Ramsey County is about $66,000 for next year. So 10 mils is 660,000, and when your budget's 2.2 million, you can see how much further over our that we have to take from general mills in order to take care of incarceration costs.
There you got it,
No,
that's a question we'll be asked. I don't know.
I know.
Are we at 8 or where are we at?
We don't want to be at 52 next year. We're at 52. General Mills cap is 60 for our county, and we're not there yet. And that's one thing I don't want to do on my watch, but I know it's something that's going to be asked down at the state.
It'll be asked, and that's why with human services, it's easy to sell because you're twice
Yeah.
of what
Well-
the rate was, so that's the question.
Even if we're max, it's not enough to cover.
I realize that. The human services, you're twice what the cap was, so that's.
But we were twice of what human services was. We're twice of what law or incarceration is. We're about 2.5 times, you know, what incarceration cap is. You know, if that cap is 10 and we're needing 30 to pay for incarceration,
What, federal prisoners, any of them, we getting any of them, or?
no, because we're full locally. So we're not accepting any federal prisoners right at the moment. We do have maybe a couple at the reentry center. I don't know if we have any, but we get compensated, reimbursed from Federal Bureau of Prisons. They're late, but we do get on our reentry center.
You know, even if we got 103 beds, but with the small community, I would say that we never want to get back to 103 beds. Because then you go into problems with the staff.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask you. So if you have 103 beds, but you're down to 50, if you have more incarcerated people, if you're taking in more people, does that decrease the cost of having? Do you know what I'm trying to say? Can you, I mean, not like you're gonna make money, but does it decrease the expenditures if you have more incarcerated people?
The only thing that I ever seen, correct me if I'm wrong, is if we're taking federal prisoners, it might decrease it, but it doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't if we're taking local.
Otherwise,
So Ramsey County, we average about 37 prisoners a day. right in that neighborhood, 35, 37 prisoners a day. And so Nelson, Benson, Towner, City of Devils Lake may average, get to that 50 really easily. And it's the extra room, extra capacity that if a Walsh County had a prisoner that they didn't have room for, they could ship it down here. We could get that money back from that jurisdiction, or if a Cass or a Grand Forks, but we don't have that capacity because we're stuck at that 50 mark. We're hoping in early January, when DOCR comes back out and does the inspection, that we've met all their obligations and requirements in their ass, that they can lift that back up. And we would probably do a self-imposed cap around that 65, 70 mark, just to get staff initiated on having more people to monitor, more reporting to do, different things like that, before we'd go all in and fully open up our capacity. But
What's the capacity you have now with the staff you have now?
I think we could do probably that 65, 70, if, because we're at that 18 right now, and that's probably about fully staffed for more people. But we just
And meet the criteria.
meet the criteria of,
That's the big, thing. That criteria is tough to meet.
yeah.
Right.
But
Turnover, you got quite a bit of turnover. You
Oh,
got
yeah.
trained and then,
I think that's everywhere though.
turnovers, I don't know, 30% Star, would you
Yes,
say?
it's huge.
It's crazy amount, where a lot of places, like I served on the school board, and we had about a 10% turnover ratio there. It's a 30-35% turnover ratio at that, because it's a tough environment to work in.
so you
Everybody's
fund
stealing.
education or your training and stuff, or they invest in your training too, or?
No, we're investing in that. So we hire them, they can work on floor while they get, classroom training in-house before they're put out on the floor, and then they have to be with a certified CO, somebody that's past that, the supervisory position, before they're let, and they have to complete their training within that year. So you're in that confines as well. So not that training's a bad thing. You'd like to have a, similar to peace
I think
officer
since we
training.
started doing the training out here though, it has helped.
Yeah.
People don't have to take off away
Go
from
for
their
a
families.
week or
Yeah,
regular motion,
but it's
Is
still tough. Everybody,
it 80 hours, 60 hours? I can't remember what the number was, but it's
I want to say it's a 2-week course.
it's a 2-week deal.
It's,
2
but
or 3.
it's split, so
Right.
it's during the POT, they go for a day here, and then they go for a day 2 weeks from there. It's different classes, so they
That's
can
where it's
work,
nice that it's here
Right.
now, they're not traveling. There was a
They
lot
can
of
work
costs that they
and-
have to.
come back to work.
And I think a big thing that we're seeing is we even up the wages because everybody's stealing from everybody. I mean, I think that's everywhere. How do you keep, what do we do?
So when you train them and you pay for their training, do they have any commitment to you at all to stay with you for a certain length of time?
No, they can jump ship and go to another county's correction
They don't have to pay
facility,
it back.
or they don't, you don't get it back. And, and as a incarceration center, that would be a huge, if somebody came in that was already trained and wanted to relocate to your community. Yeah.
We have some.
And you get that everywhere, unfortunately with the work shortage that we have, that people are up and leaving and moving wherever. It's an employee market, and wherever you want to go, you can go. And the state is looking for correction officers in every community that has a facility. You know, whether it be at a Cass County or a McKenzie County or a Ramsey County right here.
So you're looking for a lot of money. Refresh
Well,
my memory. What's your budget and how much do you have? And if the state doesn't give you that amount of money, then where else do you come up with the cash?
It basically comes from property taxes. That's the only place that Ramsey County gets funding from. So, and if the budget for incarceration is gonna be X and we only have Y, there's a shortfall. We don't wanna be soft on crime. We don't wanna have, people that we're not picking up on a outstanding warrant that, well, they're not a violent guy, but, they have this warrant. Should we pick them up? Should we hold them? Should we, we don't wanna have to do that. We don't wanna have to make that decision. We wanna enforce the laws that are out there and be able to fund that without bankrupting our county and being able to provide the other general services that the county provides throughout.
So are you telling me that if you don't get the money, you don't raise the mills, that you have to steal from Peter to pay for Paul?
Well,
I mean, are you taking money out of the another general budget to help pay for your incarcerated?
we take money out of our general fund to make up the difference, yes.
Lucky Kevin got his blades tonight.
No, it's, the thing of it is, if you raise them mills to 66,000, it's still not fixing the problem. Right. It's still not fixing the incarceration problem. I would venture to say that we're probably not picking up every single warrant right now. Because our numbers will probably be way out there. I mean, it's reality.
So my guess is this isn't just a Ramsey County problem, right?
No,
This is a problem of incarceration costs all over.
all over, yeah.
Is there anything with so a little background, so I work at the North Dakota School for the Deaf. We actually do trainings at the peace officers at the college and around the state. So I've actually been to a few incarceration units, but not here at Lake Region, but I've been out to Stanley. We were seeing Stanley. Is the makeup of the building allow you to do services differently? Because they have a central spot with everything's around them. Does it make a difference on how much staff you need, or does the staff just depend on the number of people that you have in there?
A different facility is designed would certainly benefit the numbers that we would have. The original building was put up in 74, I believe.
Yep.
And the addition was in 84, maybe 2000, I think.
It was in the 2000s.
Yeah. And so no, there's not a quad, if you would, or a multi-level that, like Stanley would be, or McKenzie County, or, some of those newer facilities, but, I think that would be a really difficult ask to go ask our taxpayers to bond a new facility. Maybe, but I don't, there's issues with the facility that, obviously with the 50-year-old facility that coming up on 50 years anyway, the original facility didn't have some of the designs that the newer facilities have. Space limitations had moved out the kitchen that we once had, so food services delivered, contracted out. That's an added expense. I can't remember what our per day meal was for next year. I think it's $8, somewhere in that neighborhood,
Yeah.
which is quite expensive when some of the other counties are looking at a contract food service that comes in. It has a kitchen within the facility, can provide meals for about $5, maybe $6 a day, somewhere in that neighborhood. So there's a big cost difference there, but that's not the end of all ends. That's certainly not the straw that's breaking the camel's back currently. It's just day-to-day overall expenses, and that crime hasn't gone down.
I would hate to go to the public and say, like you said, man, we're gonna give you a tax break, but since you have a jail, you won't get it. Cause you were saying that it'd be nice to give that tax break, but I don't know, it's a tough deal.
Is the business model working with the multi-counties? I mean, you talk about all facilities being in the same situation, right? Rugby's doing okay, aren't they?
I think they have a deficit spend on a regular monthly basis. I don't have a report, but what I see in the Pierce County Tribune is certainly a deficit that they report. Just overall staffing, feeding. They're generally full with about an 86 to 90 inmate capacity is what they report. And so if they're losing money at that rate, is there any model that does work in small rural North Dakota?
So your counties that are joined with you, are they, when you have your meetings, do they complain about the rates being too high? Are their budgets higher, or is it because of main prison population is coming from this area of Ramsey County?
Well, we certainly have the majority of the crime that's committed in the area. It comes out of, but certainly Benson, Nelson County has seen an increase this year. And I can't remember what the percentage is of, but Nelson's counties was like 187% of what they budgeted for this year for incarceration costs. And part of the benefit of having this partnership is that they don't have a facility that they have to maintain. They have the ability to belong to this facility, pay a certain fee, and they have a place to bring their prisoners to, their inmates to, that they need to house.
If you are full and somebody from the other county comes in, do they transport out or do you have to transport out?
No, they transport. And their sheriff's responsibility to transport that prisoner. So it was on Benson County's dime last week when they had to take him to Rugby. And then when there was court, they had to go get him and, so.
So are most of the people that are in this facility short-term stays, or is there longer-term stays as well?
There's certainly, we can house them up to 365 days.
Oh, you can keep them for a whole year?
We can keep them for a whole year. So a lot of times you will see a sentence of, say, a 3-year sentence with all but 1 year suspended. So that 1 year is spent in maybe county lockup instead of DOCR in Bismarck, state pen. But
What do you think?
That's the first time I've heard this story, so.
Yeah.
That's a whole different group of commissioners with this story. So I mean, the problems here, and I know if you're in the money-making business, you need federal prisoners. With the past history, we sort of lost them.
well, I don't think that that prisons can be a money-making.
I mean, as far as helping the bottom line, you need to protect the prisoners to make it work.
Stay in the black.
Certainly helps, and I think some of the federal regulations eliminated that aspect. You know, when they, you know, all of a sudden said, Department of Corrections said, we're not gonna ship juveniles all over the country, which was really a big moneymaker for our area, because they paid better than anybody else. But when they changed their rules and their regulations and stopped sending federal inmates to rural locations, then it was, and then when we have the limitation on our beds in our facility, we're not gonna take anybody from outside our area. Yeah, but since this past year, we've had prisoners as far out as Dickinson and Watford City, and you know, that's a haul for a deputy to transport prisoners to, or go pick them up for a court date.
You know how the financial part of it's running at the state level? At the penitentiary, I mean, are they having?
I don't. No.
Has the LEC had financial problems for quite some time, or is this?
Well, I don't know if we have financial problems at the LEC. Because the last I looked, we're still in the black.
Yep.
So, but we won't be able to continue that way. But the LEC bills the counties for the inmate days. So, yeah. Star, do you have anything you want to add? Do you have questions for our LEC administrator?
The only thing that I might add, because I'm more, this interim director thing is all new to me. But before I was that, I was with 911. And one thing to also keep in the back of your mind is 911 cannot support itself on the $1.50 that we get. There's no way. So that comes out of the county budgets also, to be able to fund 911 services for this area.
And 911's housed in our law enforcement center. So, and there was the 911 dispatchers, and maybe shouldn't, but sometimes they're helping out with correctional activities, unlocking doors, different things like that, letting people in and out of the facility when and sometimes they have to really multitask if there's an emergency back there, and whether the emergency's on the phone and they try to deal with that, or there's an emergency in the back where the inmates are housed. You know, can be a multitude of activities going on at one time, and they're kept pretty darn busy.
Cost of doing business, that at one time was $1, and I think, I remember we went to $1.50, trying to keep equity. But I guess, I just throw this out here, because I'm sure I got the answer, but you folks are the ones that have to look at these numbers every day, and that everybody that's in this business is seeing this, that things are getting tight. I guess, share with us what we can do, and, because we'll certainly, visiting earlier, I think was planning on visiting folks in Bismarck about this type of system, how it can enhance it.
Yep.
But I need the background as to why it is getting tight, I guess.
More people breaking laws.
Yeah.
And
We don't want to be like New York, where there's no cat.
yeah. And you know, we can point to a multitude of problems or reasons why people are doing that, and whether it be addiction, drugs, mental health issues. And that's one of the things that certainly our sheriffs and our deputies will tell you, and our correction office staff, is they're not a mental health facility. And when in some of those bigger facilities, the Grand Forks, Fargo's, Burley counties, they have the ability to have the mental health staff in-house where they can deal with a lot of those issues that we get without having to have a better understanding of what that individual is going through, and having the ability to deal with it. Their law enforcement officials, is their first responsibility, not so much a mental health provider. So,
Well, if it's 50 above instead of 20 below, they'd be on the street.
well, right. I think we see less crime in the wintertime. Our numbers may go down a little bit because it is so cold. I don't know.
Well, they say that the cold is supposed to keep away the riffraff, right?
Well,
There's gotta be something positive about living where it's 50 below.
it's an acquired taste.
Yeah.
And somehow our ancestors acquired it and passed it on to us. So, love where we live, and that's why we're all sitting around this table, because we love where we live, and want to try to make it a better place, and what we can do to try to do that. But whatever you guys can do to help, and what we can do to bring some of those numbers to you, I appreciate your time tonight.
Prairie dog money,
Yes.
are you able to use some of that?
Oh, yeah, no problem.
We're not talking roads right now. I mean, because it's still on track, February, March,
February, from what I saw.
1.8.
Yeah, but isn't Prairie Dog just for roads? Yeah.
I'd just say if you could get some before Kevin gets it.
Well, see, we didn't know that we were getting it, and I think we may have some padding within our budget since we are getting that. And now, well, it's not in the bank yet, so I'm not gonna write any checks, but.
Does that free up other money, so we got that dedicated for Kevin's projects, if that free up.
What happens when you don't get it the next year, still doesn't fix
Right.
the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might get you by another year.
Yeah.
Then let's say all of a sudden Prairie Dog Fund isn't there the following year. Now what? Now we're back where we started.
If the prairie dog,
last by him either.
prairie dog fund isn't there, though, we're in probably bigger trouble with our general fund states.
We would be, our roads would be we'd have less quality roads, and I think, people wanna complain about roads, but I think we really have some really good roads in our township and our county, and I think Kevin and his crew all the time when I drive up and down them, and so, there's always issues with roads, and they could always be better, but I don't wanna pay the taxes of Minnesota or Wisconsin and have blacktop everywhere.
Like everything else, the cost of oil and the fuel and everything else keep going up, so, our road projects are costing more, so we're asking for the same amount of taxes, but we're getting the over money to help pay for the inflation part of it.
The only thing about Prairie Dog is it comes with a lot less strings than the federal money does. So that does help that way.
Guess what I'm saying, we're not raising our tax base to do our projects, our highway projects, that we're making up for the inflation by using them.
I know I've taken up a lot of time, and that was one of the primary reasons that I wanted you to to come in so we could explain this situation that we're facing, but also to introduce us to you and you to us and that kind of thing. So we have a face with a name when we're calling, and we got your contact information from the state's website, so appreciate that, and we'll be calling and texting all the time, right, Dennis?
So I put my cell number on that page.
I bug Dennis quite a bit, so, but, and he's always open to bug me, as well, so. But, Star, you have anything else you wanna add?
If anybody ever wants to come and take a tour,
Yeah, tours would be great.
more than welcome.
So just contact you?
I would.
Yeah, I was thinking it would be real interesting.
We have an LEC board meeting in the morning, and it's available to watch over Teams, or if you wanna come in person, we do that at the small court room in the law enforcement center, 8 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. So, always welcome to attend, and we'd be happy to give you a tour. You know, it's a little, yeah, you know, you hear that lock behind you when you go through the doors, it's a little,
Just kind of,
yeah.
And if you've been to the newer facilities, you'll really have an eye opening as to what our staff deal with.
No. We have a great staff, and really appreciate their hard work and dedication. It's not an easy job, and you know, they can make probably the same amount of money stocking shelves at Walmart or what have you, so we really appreciate what they do and the hard work that they provide. So it's you know, being locked in a facility for, you know, because they have a lot of the same restrictions as everybody else, and, you know, a lot different work environment than working in an office or working out in the field or what have you. So really appreciate the things that our correction officers and staff and administration go through. It's a tough job, so.
What is the pay?
But we're starting people out at $20 an hour is what we got raised up our correction office starting salary at. So,
They get benefits too.
and they get benefits as well,
Is that where you got the dispatch at to start?
you know. So, you know, I think we pay fairly well and the benefits are good, and, but I think they get overworked. It is part of the burnout situation, you know. When
That's
they-
what I was gonna say, so what would you say your typical longevity is? Like, how long does a correction officer stay?
Well, at one point this year, we were down to like 4 staff members that had been there less than a year.
4 staff members that
In corrections working,
had been there for less than a
Less
year
than a
or
year.
longer than a
less
year?
than a year.
Less than a year.
We don't, the correctional staff does not have very good longevity at all. We have hired some longevity back in. So there are a few now that have a couple years under their belt, but there's, I think, maybe the captain has 5 years or more experience. Other than, less than that for everybody else.
And their main reason for leaving, they would say, would be the conditions or the lack of support, or what would you say, what's the primary reason that they don't last?
I'd say stress.
Yeah.
You know, just the overall stress of working in that environment and, you know, on a day-to-day basis. You know,
And
it's
they're working 12-hour shifts,
you know,
holidays, weekends, birthdays, you name it. And it's hard to find people out there that want that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
similar to healthcare.
Mm-hmm,
that, you know,
yeah. I can relate.
So,
I think the whole workforce has changed, and I think what's interesting is that, you know, when I think about when I started nursing 40 years ago, and then what it's like now in nursing 40 years later. My youngest has been a nurse now for 3 years, and when she talks about her work experience, it's like completely different, right, than what I remembered.
mhm.
And part of it that I keep hearing over and over and over again is the mental health issues that we now have. Why do we have so much mental health? And I remember her saying to me, you know, Mom, what you don't realize is that almost every one of my patients now has one of 3 diagnoses, and they're all mental health issues. They're addiction or a psychiatric diagnoses, and I'm just like, this is the world we're living in. And now all we hear from is in education, they're dealing with all the mental health issues. Now you're talking about the mental health issues. It's everywhere. And I'm sitting and I'm wondering, I'm not in Health and Human Services. It was my number 5 choice, okay? Because I don't really want to listen to mental health issues all day long because I don't know the answer for it, Jeff. I don't know how much money do you throw at these things expecting positive outcomes? You know what I mean? Like, if I'm gonna throw my money at something, I wanna know that something's gonna happen, right? So I think it's gonna be really hard to know how to make that determination of where money really needs to be well spent and that it will make a difference versus just kind of throwing something at the wall and hoping it sticks, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah, absolutely 100% right. You can't throw money at a problem and expect it to go away. You have to have a reasonable solution to that problem and then put that money towards that solution. And, you know, hopefully then but I don't think it's a problem that we solve overnight. And, you know, but hopefully it does get better, that we can leave this place a better place for our kids and our grandkids.
and obviously law enforcement
Um,
is a priority.
we'll-
To have
yeah.
safe neighborhoods and safe communities.
And we've been very good and supportive of our law enforcement, our drug task force. You know, I don't think that's anything that we've backed away from, anything that, it's almost like when Kevin comes and asks for money, when the sheriff comes, we, you know, give him whatever he asks for. And, understand that they're under a great deal of stress, and whatever we can do to make their jobs easier, we'll do that. And, you know, because I'm not out in a patrol car, I don't know what they need. So I rely on their information. But thank you once again so much for coming in. Other commissioners, I've kind of monopolized the time, but other issues, questions?
So I could be wrong on this, but the last legislative session, you took and you're gonna reinvest money, a certain amount of money, but you hadn't figured out the rules yet. I don't remember what it was called off the top of my head. But the legacy fund, you were gonna you're gonna try and keep some of it in North Dakota to invest that, to try and build the legacy fund. Is that correct?
And I shouldn't even be speaking on it because I'm just speaking what I hear secondhand because I'm not on that committee, but in listening to the other stock, that money is invested worldwide. But with another party that does the investing. And there's an effort now to try and get some of that money back toward North Dakota for reinvestment in North Dakota and things that the folks in North Dakota could see more of that money being invested in their state, so. It's only an investment, you know, I'm still farming, so I put my money in iron. But the guys that have money that are out there investing, some of the stuff is, you know, making very little and some is doing pretty good and they just have a well-rounded portfolio, or whatever you wanna call it. And so some of these investments aren't doing that well that are overseas, and thus the pressure to get some of the money back to North Dakota, so.
So did you, was there a certain amount that you were supposed to bring back, or is that
Yeah, I don't
stuff still in the process?
I don't know, Lee, I
Okay.
just can't answer that. I can look into it, get back to you, but I just honestly can't answer that
Okay.
intelligently. I'm gonna be disappointed leaving this room and we haven't talked about rising water, I should say.
Well,
It's all
We've only got so much time.
It's all frozen. Let's see,
Yeah.
if you guys at the podium talk about the high levels of water.
That will have to be in a text message.
That's another topic you don't wanna get me on.
Another whole day.
Yeah, so, yeah, all the water right now is frozen,
Frozen.
so,
Yeah, it's on in the lake and on the highway, and it's everywhere frozen.
yeah. It's certainly an interesting point of and long-term lake stabilization is always gonna be a number one factor for our region. We can't have that major fluctuation that we have, whether it be 30 years down the road or next year. A 5-year or a 5-foot increase in lakes on a yearly basis isn't good. A 5-foot decrease isn't good, but if you could somehow manage it within that 5-foot constraint and know where it would be from year to year, I think the economic development would be astronomical. And I've said that for years, is if we could somehow stabilize this lake, and I don't care at what level, whether it's at the level that it's currently at or 20 feet lower where the farmland, originally was, stabilize it. That would be huge.
The water is just like incarceration.
Yeah. But the amount of revenue that Ramsey County has lost through taxation and, spent in infrastructure protection and different things like that and roads and, is huge. But, with lemons, you make lemonade, and the revenue that we've seen increase on the value of the higher waters has certainly benefited the area as well. So it's one of those double-edged swords that make hay when the sun shines kind of thing. But don't wish for too much sunshine, because that's not always a good thing either. Lake levels and I'm done guessing. Just when you figure out or think you have this lake figured out, it'll go and change on you. And we saw that last year with the dramatic rise. I thought the Weather Service was completely off their mind when they predicted a 3-foot increase in early or late January, only to see that 3-foot rise not be enough. But it all depended on how the melt came and the kind of precipitation we received at the end. So,
Well, excuse me, coming with the title I got right now, you find yourself getting on different committees, and I see the other day they notified me I was on the Lake Stabilization Committee again, so that's where you are, right? Yeah.
the Devil's Lake Outlet Advisory Committee.
The Devil's Lake Outlet Advisory Committee. Meeting when it's high and sit back when it's low.
Well, the economic benefits are of the outlets is that, what is it, 1.3, 1.4 million acre feet that the lake or the pumps have pumped off since they've come online, which is about double the capacity of the lake was at in 92 when it started flooding. So a lot of water pumped off, and You know, if we didn't have that buffer to the north, we would have seen more devastation than we did this past year. You know, so, well, actually, I think if the engineer was right, I think this would have been the year that the lakes would have overflowed naturally without the pumps. So you take into evaporation, all that kind of thing, and the precipitation that we've had over the years. Had the pumps not been installed and not operated, this would have been the year that the lake would have gone over naturally at 58. And that's a scary thought, because water extends all the way to Canada. 261,000 acres of inundated land. And you think about that when, you know, the lake was 45,000 before we started flooding in 93. So, no, roughly 100,000 acres still underwater. Thanks for bringing that up, Dennis.
I'd like to I do.
Yeah, but thank you once again. I really appreciate you guys coming in, taking the time, and I appreciate all that you've done in the past. And Kathy and Judy, thank you so much for taking on the commitment and the role that you're taking on, and I look forward to seeing you guys anytime in the future.
Or contact information on the workshop webpage.
Yep.
So use it.
Hey, and ours are on our website, so go ahead, look us up, give us a text, give us an email, give us a call. So thank you once again.
Well, it's nice to meet all of you and
Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Kevin, should we get back to you?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, first of all, I think I made maps for everybody, I'll kind of go over that so it's really to understand. All the lines in red are the county roads. And then I just put the signs that are out on the roads don't have the A's and B's and C's on them, they just have the number. But we break them down into like 10-mile sections, so like if we're working on a road, we're working on a 10-mile section or something like that. So then I put the sections of each road on there also. Just about all of them are federal aid roads. Like the ones that border with the other counties, they are not federal aid roads. Does everybody understand what a federal aid road is? That's the ones that we get federal dollars to work on.
So the county highways bordering other counties don't qualify for
No federal dollars, yep.
Why is that? Is that just because there's two counties involved or something?
No, it's just, they have to meet certain criteria to be a federal aid road, like they have to connect to another federal aid road on each end. You know, there's certain criteria, and they don't always do that on the county lines. I'm sure in other counties they do, so they could possibly be federal aid roads, but it's not common.
What's the asterisk for?
Well, the asterisks are the ones that are not federal aid roads. The little black stars. No, I put those out there, we share with the, like, for instance, Grams Island Road, that is a federal aid road, but we share with Benson County on that. So that's what the asterisk is. And it's pretty typical that they're not federal aid. Does not work that way. And like, up by Starkweather, Turnback 17, Ramsey County, over by Penn, Ramsey County 2 West, we call it, and then there's a north and a south. We should also share those with townships, so they pay 25% of a gravel project or some project like that. We pay 75% and they pay 25%. On the county roads that we share, it's always 50-50. And the townships aren't even involved. Well, this is a lot to try and swallow at once, so if you ever get any questions on how this works, like.
Do the townships always have money to share?
Generally, we give them a pretty good heads up of when it's gonna happen, when we're gonna do that project, so they can budget for it, or put it in their bills for it, or whatever they need to do.
About 20 years ago was when that switched. It used to be 50-50.
Yep, right.
And I was on township board then. We got together, you know, most of us didn't have the money to go 50-50, but the 25% seems to work. I'll say for Cooley Township, it seems to work very well.
That's true, for instance, gravel in that Ramsey County too, over by Penn, I think it's on the 5-year road plan, so it's $120,000, so, 25% of that, there is 3 townships involved, but 25% of that gets to be even a big number, let alone 50%. So that's how, the truck route, the city does help us pay for some of that, not a lot, we do most maintenance ourselves. You can see that little bend there that goes past the terminal, the grain terminal, that is all county also.
So I got a question on that road. Why is the terminal paved? Right? And then it goes past unpaved and then paved again. Why hasn't that stretch ever been paved?
No, so it's, the stretch that's highlighted here is the county, then the gravel goes to the township.
That's to me, doesn't make sense. You got come pavement, break, pave,
Then where it goes to pavement again, as long as the city.
It's just kind of silly.
And I think it came down to landowner assessment. It was an assessment project that was proposed
To pave it, and then
to pave it and,
they watered it down, or.
you know,
I mean, for that being a truck route, is that the truck route?
That's not a truck.
That's no trucks allowed on that.
Years ago it was, I think.
I don't know about that gravel portion.
But anyway, yeah,
Oh, maybe for the guards, I think the guards may have helped pay for that, because they had that loading.
I think it wasn't fully loaded off the terminal, or the railroad.
off the railroad there.
But anyway, it just seems silly to me that there's 1 mile stretch in there or something, or half mile.
3/4, yeah. It's kitty corner, so.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
Yes, any other questions? Just to mention, 4E way down by, south of Bartlett. 4E south of US 2, that is no longer a federal aid road. The county line road that we share with Nelson, that became the federal aid route now, since they put that new bridge in there. That had to be that federal aid road in order to get that bridge paid for. So we traded designations there. And then now but Nelson County takes care of that county line there. And when you go north of Bartlett, we take care of that. But we still share major projects. And that's kind of the way it works, like Trans Island Road, Benson County does the maintenance on that. And we do the maintenance on south of Church's Ferry. Up by Cavalier, we take care of the stuff west of Hamden, and Cavalier takes care of the stuff east of Hamden. So anyway, that's kind of the background on that map. Like I say, if you have any questions in the future, but. So then we've also got this 5-year road plan. I don't know if everybody's got a copy of that, but it's like a 4-page. We've had this for years, and as we do the projects, like on the first page is our gravel projects. And like as last year, on the bottom, you can see in 2028, that's what we gravelled last year, last summer. So as we do a project, it goes to the bottom of the page. And then it works its way back up to the top again. So like every 6 years, we're graveling our roads. It's called a 5-year road plan, but it ends up being 6 years on a lot of it.
What's that ADT, what's the years on it?
ADT is average daily traffic, so that's how many cars go over it every day on the counts that we did ourselves.
Where do you get your material?
Every time we do a gravel project, we bid it for private contractors to do it. So then it's up to them to wherever their source is. A lot of it comes from, and on the end of the Woods Rutton Road, freight is a big thing on gravel projects. So wherever is the closest, that's generally, so like the closest would be the south end of the Wood Rutton Road or south of Doyen. Where's not a close one? There's some over in Benson County over by Leeds area. And then the next ones are way up in Walsh County. So it's all freight. I mean, that freight is the biggest cost on the gravel. So what I've done with this road plan you're looking at is just moved all the projects down, and now in 2023, we'll be graveling the Ramsey County, Cavalier County line from Hamden going west. We'll be graveling 8D, which is way over by the Walsh County line, 3 miles there. 7C is right below that, way over on the east side of State Highway 1. 7A goes west of Rocket. And then Ramsey County 2 west, which is over by the Penn area.
Roughly 450,000.
1, 2, 3, yep. The very top one where the question mark is, we had that scheduled to do this summer, and the water came up and inundated the road again, so we didn't do that project. So that's kind of hanging out there. Again, depending on what the water does, if we'll be able to do it in 23 or not. As of today, there's portions that are still underwater, so I mean, likely we won't be able to do it next summer either.
So I see where you got that road east of one and 8, east of 1, I think was up this year. I'm not referring to anything, but when you do that project, then does Walsh County do it too?
Mhm.
So it would stop at the county line.
I mean, if it would happen that way, it'd just be a stroke of luck. Yeah. I'm sure they got theirs in some kind of rotation also, set on their budget. And then as you go down the line there, you can see what our projects will be. They'll work their way up that list. So any questions on that page?
It's not necessarily the number of miles or the budget, it's on a rotation basis.
Right. Is there other work done to some of these roads when you,
But that's a good question. On the gravel roads, we've been fixing all the soft spots ahead of the gravel projects. We've been we've got a little rototiller grinder, asphalt grinder we put on front of a skid steer, and then we till in dry bags of cement.
Okay.
And then cover it with a little bit of gravel before we gravel the whole road. So that's been working pretty good for us. So yeah, that's something we will do. Try to get rid of most of the soft spots before. You know how it goes. You never seem like it goes far enough. It'll start rattling on the ends again. So we'll see that happen once in a while in some spots.
Do you do that as a road temporary fix to, or?
We do. If there's some bad ones show up on a road that we're not planning to gravel, we'll get them to it with their bad bed. That all depends on time. I mean, if we got enough time to do them all, we would, but.
Yeah.
Anything else on gravel? Okay, the next page is our paving projects. That actually goes out for quite a few years, simply because of cost. And now in 2023, we're designing an overlay project for Ramsey County 3, south of 17, all the way down to Ramsey County 8, where 8 goes east. But
This is where we get some federal funding.
yep, this is our federal dollars that we're able to use. We do have to match it with our own dollars also. We never get enough federal dollars to do these projects, but that's typical statewide. Nobody gets enough federal dollars.
This is where you were saying this, money from the state's gonna be huge.
Right, like our prairie dog money.
That's what I was trying to think.
Yeah. This is where we can use our prairie dog money to help with our federal aid projects. So in the following year, since it's being designed this coming summer, the following year we do the paving project. And you notice the estimates, I only do the estimates for the current year because I can't keep up with inflation for estimating in the future.
So 65,000 for the engineering.
Yeah, it's just the engineering for the design of the project.
You need to be an engineer, right? And that's mandatory because it's federal, right? You can't get
That's
any
right.
federal dollars if you don't have it.
The state century code requires us to use a registered engineering firm too. So, like a county that's got their own engineer, they can design them, I guess, to a certain extent even. But anyway, they still end up hiring firms to do their design work too, because you just don't have enough in-house people.
It's quite a list.
Yeah.
You look out down to the bottom, all the way down to 2048.
Which is always gonna be a constant thing. It's just the way it is, if you wanna have decent roads.
Same way with the ADTs on there, this is the traffic counts we've done on that. Any questions on our paving projects? Okay, on the next page is our chip seal project, and these are done once every 6 years also.
This chip seal of 2023, that's the one that we were ready, all the planning for, right?
Yep, right, so that would be 4D is from, 7, County 7, that goes west of Rockers, all the way down to US 2. And then there's 1 mile way over Brockett, east of Brockett, there's that 1 mile of pavement that we'll make sure we catch that at the same time too. And then Ramsey County 8. Kind of east of there, I guess. 8B, if you could look at your.
Pretty big project, actually.
Yeah, we try to get like 16 to 20 miles of chip seal every year. And that's what the estimated cost is $525,000. Back a few years ago, the citizens or the county voted 10 mil for it. And that's what we use that 10 mils for, is this chip seal.
I was shaking my head, what did something like that cost 30 years ago?
30 years, probably 3,000 a mile, so 16 miles, maybe 40,000-50,000.
That's all.
It's expensive. That's why you see a lot of those turnback roads.
Yeah.
You know, Air Force came through and put in a lot of that asphalt years ago, and then when they left and stopped using those for their silo projects, they stopped funding the roads, and it became too expensive for counties to maintain that asphalt.
Is what it is, I guess, and
Yeah.
you're gonna change it, you know?
So any questions on the chip seal projects? Okay, then the last pages are bridges. We only have, the very top one is the one that, we were replacing on, it's just south of Doug Bridge. We've had that in the works for about 3 years now. Looks like it's may get done this summer. Depending on, it's tough to get concrete box culverts right now, the industry, everybody. With the federal dollars coming in like they are statewide, not only North Dakota, but everybody's trying to get concrete culverts or box culverts, so it's tough to get them. Should have done,
You better add on.
should have been in that business, yeah.
Yeah.
So then now we only have, below that first one, there's 3 bridges that really we only have left to do. That's, the second one on that, of the 3 is still rated at 56 tons, which is, you know, that's what most semis can, or straight trucks can carry, or semis can carry, so we're pretty safe on that, but most of the bridges that we have left that are not on this list are open for legal loads. These are the only 3 left that really need to be replaced because they can't handle the weight that's crossing them.
And you plan on replacing those with bridges, or are you gonna?
The 3, not that first one, but the next 3 will all be done, replaced with culverts.
Culverts?
Yeah. And that's, we know, for probably the last 20 years, we've been doing 3-4 bridges like this every year. Now this is the end of them. We're still probably gonna have some here and there as they deteriorate over the years, but.
I think it only took 30 years,
Right.
Those bridges on that Webster Coulee running from Morrison over to Dry Lake, I know they're not county, it'd be townships, but they seem a little undersized.
Where at?
Could be west of, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
One on that, right by the cemetery there, and then there's one back to the east of the cemetery.
Those must be about the same as the Channel A one, right? About the same weight? Cause that's gotta be undersized.
Well, I think they're the right weight, I just don't know if they're
Opening size.
premium size,
Oh, yeah.
so. And that's something as that water project continues to move forward, the engineer will tell us more on that.
It seems like over the years, the sizes are increasing. We're required, if we're gonna replace a bridge or a set of culverts or something, we have to do a hydraulic study. Now, the state century code says that we have to do hydraulic studies. And as we're doing these hydraulic studies, we're noticing that everything we've got everywhere is undersized. It's really typical. I haven't found one yet that was oversized.
Right. And then if they're undersized somewhere upstream from us, and they go in and put larger culverts, larger bridges, larger openings, and then we're on the bottom side of things. And,
Is that because the technology's better? And you
It
can,
could be, very well could be, because they do things differently now. They go upstream as far as that basin. It finds the hills all the way around this, we're north of this bridge. And then it determines how much water can go through there, and every 25 years or whatever it is. So, yeah, they never ever did that before. They probably went 2 bridges up and said, okay, this one's this size, and this one's that size, let's do this type of thing.
seen some in the northern part of the basin that have gone from a couple hundred, acres watershed to several thousand. And all of a sudden you got this, this is what it's telling us that we should be in here. And they go ahead and put that in and just creates further problems on down the line.
And when they do the hydraulic studies, they take into consideration elevation issues and all that stuff. Back in the 50s, they probably didn't do that either. Just talking out loud here, I don't know.
Scrapers have gotten better.
What is the plan with like these inundated bridges? They just, I know like this DeGrove Township one, I drove across that one, I think 2 summers ago, it was above water, now it's kind of washed out on the one side. Do they stay just on the inundated list and they're just decommissioned?
Yeah, when they do come out of the water, they're gonna be.
That's why I assume they'd have to be recertified and.
Oh, for sure. There's a very good chance you're not gonna be usable after being underwater that long. Freeze thaw, all that stuff. Yeah, they're gonna be.
Both of those inundated would be pretty covered box culvert.
Yeah. Well, those are pretty small bridges. The ones are Gordy County, north of Gordy County, that's north, right? That's the one you're thinking of?
If it's Skorstein one.
Right north of Joel Storstein.
Oh,
Yeah.
north of Joel's, yeah.
Yeah,
See, that's been underwater for years and years too. That's on East-West Road?
I don't think that's the north-south one there. I think they're taking it right.
East-west.
Section 6 and 7. DeGrove Township. Can't really read that map.
Hey, your eyeballs would be better than mine.
But it is on an east-west road, and it probably hasn't been used for,
Well, maybe I'm thinking of a different one.
yeah, you are probably.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm thinking of that one for the south there. That one's.
Like, what would have been west or east of Joel's, by that old school. or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. Yes, that
That's
one's
still a
just,
really pretty solid bridge yet, so. As long as it made it through the freeze thaws, why, we could still put some dirt around it.
Yeah, if there doesn't get dirt around it, it's not gonna make it much longer.
Mhm.
I was driving up there this fall.
I don't know if you could even cross it now, the holes are so big. We did get some FEMA money to fill the holes in, if we ever get the money. So that's all I have for, updated 5-year road plan, but I guess it's up to you guys to approve this new updated plan, so.
Looking for a motion to approve that.
Yeah, I'll move to approve the 5-year plan.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the submitted 5-year updated Ramsey County Highway Plan. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
You can also find this on our website if you want to refer it.
Go under the layers, it's there.
It's not easy to find, but it is there.
Click a few tabs and it's there. Yeah. So appreciate all your hard work, Kevin, and putting that together and the hard work that your guys have done this past week in the snow conditions that they've had to endure.
Yes, thank you.
phones haven't been ringing off the hook too bad, so,
That's good.
yes. And always remind people that, you know, if they do have issues, that all our numbers are available. And don't call one, call us all. We appreciate those. So. Anything else, Kevin?
No, not for now. That's all I have.
Thank you. Meeting dates. You wanna keep those as listed? The question was, Bo was gonna look up in the century code regarding the requirements of the second meeting. Does it have to be at a specific day or time? And I think the only one that's required under century code is that first meeting. The second one is optional. And we've had occasions where there wasn't a great deal of county business to conduct, and we've forgone those in the past on certain meetings, but certainly don't want to make that a habit and can't justify not having one. It's just a matter, do we want to keep it the third Tuesday, and do we want to keep it at 5:30?
I think we should keep it the third Tuesday, for sure.
Okay.
I was the one who brought it up about doing the Monday meeting, but I get the Tuesday thing, and I do get that we have to have the ability for our communities to come and see us if they would like to. So that being said, I'd make a motion that we leave it like it is.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I second
Okay. Further discussion? And we have hundreds of people watching us currently though.
Right.
So, yeah, it's always good to have that ability to come in. So we have a motion and a second to leave the meeting dates and times as scheduled, the first Monday, or first Tuesday at 8 AM, the third Tuesday at 5:30, and the dates are listed below. I think there's a couple Thursdays in there because of holidays, but those are listed. The January 5th, our first meeting of January 2023, and then following Independence Day, July 6th would be a Thursday as well. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. New business.
It's too late for the discussion part, but what happens if we have inclement weather? Who decides that we do not meet? You do?
Whoever's chairman. And certainly that was issues last week with inclement weather. Worked a lot hand in hand with emergency manager and making that determination. And a lot of it was based upon what the travel advisories were for that period of time. If there's no travel advised for the public, I don't think it's prudent to open up the facility and invite people to come in, whether it be employees or public, just for overall safety concerns. And the one day that when we did call, the day closed, about 5 minutes later, they turned around and lifted the travel advised, but it had already been sent out, the message. Everybody gets a text message and email, not only employees, but it goes out publicly on the radio at the same time. And 911 has that as well, so they get that message. Thursday, when the blizzard hit, it was, we had to the building open, there was, that morning was pretty nice, but the weather turned to crap in a hurry. It went from clear and forecasted blizzard conditions to all of a sudden blizzard conditions. And so, I'm just thankful that everybody got home safe that day. And then Friday, it was a pretty easy call. It was no travel advised. And that continued throughout the day. Yeah. But I think meetings, we do have the ability to meet remotely. I don't know if we necessarily like doing that, because you don't have that face-to-face interaction, and a lot easier to conduct business in person. We did do meetings remotely for a period of time, a couple of them, I think, during COVID, it works out a lot better in person. So inclement weather, we would probably just reschedule instead of doing remote, unless it's a multi-day blizzard and we're not gonna get out. But we probably have to have an emergency meeting and open up the emergency operations center and declare, to have an emergency declaration at that point. One of those kind of things that there's a lot of responsibilities that we can't skirt because of bad weather. That we have to get together, make those decisions so counties can get out there and do the business of counties, and people can get the services that they need. And but so let's get on with new business, unless anybody else has anything else. Okay. Letters of transfer, we have 2 of them. Have a motion to accept.
So, second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the letters of transfer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Homestead credit abatements, we have 2 of those.
Move approved. I will second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the abatements. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Just your pencil.
Yeah, that was my pencil. Yep, got it.
Lease agreements. We have some lease agreements that we lease out space in the facility. Do we want to do these one by one, or do we want to do them all together? I know there's one for the joint boards office that I manage, I sit in. I would abstain from that. But if everybody, we have one for the
So that's the rent of, like, the space that you're in?
Yeah.
So it's $22.80 per year,
pretty reasonable.
I would say.
Yeah. Hasn't gone up in the 20 years that I've been in the building, I don't think. And then there's some other services that the county provides for the joint board. And it's been $22.80 for as long as I can remember.
I'm surprised it's that cheap. Yeah.
And well, I get a space about the size of this interior of this.
I'm just,
I get the little.
oh, that's for that space, it's not for you.
No, it's just that little office is the joint boards.
We put in smaller rooms.
And the other part is the Ramsey County Water Board. Yeah, so the Ramsey County Water Board's separate from the joint board, and that's, so they get the bigger space, and And, I get the spot that I like.
So do you want a motion on all of them together or separate?
Yeah.
Do them all together. So we have the joint board, we have the park board. I think this is the park boards, Memorial Building Gymnasium.
I would so move on all the lease agreements that are presented.
And the sheriff's house next door. And the school.
I will second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the lease agreements. And, District Health, I would assume that's in there as well.
It is.
District Health,
District Health,
this is joint powers.
so that's a joint powers, it's not a lease.
We don't have a lease with them.
Okay. So we have those entities under the lease agreements. Discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And now we have a joint powers agreement with Lake Region District Health, Ramsey County.
Yes.
We want to do the VSO with that as well, the joint powers between Ramsey, Benson, and Nelson counties.
I think that's how we've done them before.
Is it both together?
I'll move to approve those, what do you call them?
Joint powers.
Joint powers.
Powers. We have a second.
I will second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. And these have been in place for a number of years. Lake Region District Health is, what is it, 4 counties? Ramsey, Benson, Pierce, Eddy.
There you go.
And VSO is Benson and Nelson. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And then we have the beer license.
I got a question on that.
Okay.
Is Wally's closed out there?
Yep.
So why is that on?
I just printed the list.
Oh, okay.
I just,
I was gonna ask the same.
Yeah.
So does that license stay with us or?
they won't be issued. Whoever turns money into me will, but she's.
I'll motion that at all, everybody on there except for Wally's.
Yeah. And the
And I'm talking
tavern,
Wally's, the Roadhouse. That's-
yeah,
Mhm.
and Yield Tavern, they do theirs on an occasion, so.
That's so they can go out to.
Yes.
4-H or,
Yep.
or in here, right, at the memorial.
Nope.
building?
It doesn't include
Not
city.
city,
Yep.
gotcha.
So basically, if they have something out at the Peterson Arena or,
They come and ask.
where was the other one that they went to, they had a wedding at somebody's farm.
So,
Yeah, no, I just, that's our general list with names and phone numbers and,
So why is Thirsties on there or Pops?
because they do county.
They do
Gotcha.
4-H,
Same thing.
yeah, Peterson
They
Arena.
just choose not to do it on a case-by-case basis.
Right.
Right.
Makes sense.
Did we have a second on the motion?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? And if not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Beer licenses are approved. Additional item, lot and pen. We have a,
Well, I know you discussed this earlier, I just would like to throw my 2 cents in there. So there's 2 trees that were blowing over in the wind and they're actually snagged in 2 standing trees. And to me, that's a safety hazard, it is still the county's lot, and at some point that will be more of a safety hazard than it is now. And I don't even think Kevin's guy should be tackling it because it is a snag. You know, I think but I think they should at least be cut down so they're on the ground. After that, if it's not aesthetically pleasing, I guess that's not our concern, but I do think they are a safety hazard and should be cut, the snag should be cut out so they make it all the way to the ground.
Did they get the ones on the power lines?
Yeah, the power company did that right after the storm.
Good.
are these recent?
It's from the summer storm. that they
Summer
had
storm.
out there.
Same time it twisted the bins out there.
Yep.
It's gonna be a safety hazard, we definitely gotta cut them, but I would say if we cut them down, to remove them also. The reason I say that, because if someone goes in there and mows those lots, pretty soon then we're gonna have it, well, now the lots aren't getting mowed.
Right. No, and that's fine, but I mean, I think your first priority is the safety hazard, and then after that, what happens is.
Honestly, the neighbors would probably take them. I mean,
Right,
I'm just-
there's kind of a
Well,
firewood.
there's a guy there that he cut damn near every other tree that was down in that storm up for firewood, so I don't think it would take long for them to disappear. But I do think they should be on the ground, I really do. And like I said, I know Kevin gets stuck with mowing all the cemeteries and all that stuff, but like I said, I don't know much about cutting trees down, but I do know snags are dangerous and if you don't have the proper equipment or the proper knowledge that then we'll have other safety issues.
You looking at, like, you wanna put it out on bid, do you have somebody bid it, or you just wanna
Well,
hire somebody to go out there and chop them
To
down?
be honest with you, I don't even know what it would cost to cut those trees down. I don't know if it would be expensive enough to have to put it out on bid, but what's the?
You should probably just call for 2 or 3 people.
Just you're gonna look at $1,000 a tree.
If they're gonna haul it, yeah, wouldn't surprise me.
There's more than one tree service in town.
Oh, man.
Has that question, is that a local guy that has went around and cut the trees, has he not cut these because he feels like he
Right.
can't?
Yeah.
I don't know, I would assume that's what the problem was. I
Are
mean,
we willing to, the guy wants to, let him, or don't we think that's a good idea?
I don't think we wanna go down that road. Just as my personal,
Oh, no, that's why I'm asking.
I think you're leaving the door open there a little bit for.
Let somebody that's bonded and.
Yeah, that
That's
way,
true.
that's their baby, if they,
Mhm.
I can go over there and cut it down, but I don't.
I got it. Don't try it, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah,
You know,
I think it'd be proper, and since we don't really know it, I mean, you want to put it out on bids, and what's that process? I mean, is that,
Put it in the
I mean,
paper.
well,
is there a level at which you
You
don't
wouldn't
have
even
to?
have to do that.
Yeah,
You
the
just make
price. is
3
allowed.
phone calls and
Right.
have 3 people turn in bids and
Okay, well, I think we need motion for that.
Yeah.
Who's gonna do it, are you gonna do it?
No,
No.
have you seen, I've seen these things.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Oh, I see, I can do the legwork.
Someone gonna do it.
as far as doing the calling and having somebody turn in
You okay with
the
that?
bid and we approve it at their,
I got
cause this
Some
isn't,
background on it.
this isn't something you want done tomorrow.
No, I
You know?
I mean, the trees are healthy and, the ones that are standing there, I'm not thinking it's gonna.
Definitely probably get it done.
There-
Yeah, I would say get it done, as whenever they can do it. I mean, it's not a priority or an emergency by any means, but.
There's not a building that's in jeopardy
No,
or.
no, it's just, they're right along the street there, and when they go, they probably won't even go on the street, but if they're hung up. There are still people living there with grandkids and, you
So
know,
it'd be cutting the trees down and removing the.
Yep.
Yep. Okay,
Do you wanna get prices for removing and leaving them? So I honestly think the neighbor.
I honestly think you will too. So I mean, if you wanna do it both ways and,
Make a decision afterward.
yeah. And if I run into him, I'll ask him if he wants it, or, you know, if those trees are down, would they disappear or whatever.
You make a motion,
I'll make a motion that we remove those trees.
I'll second.
okay. Motion and second that we remove the down trees in the community of Penn. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Alright,
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Announcements, we have any?
Oh, I guess I handed out the
Yeah, the-
Association of Counties, it's just for information for you guys to read what they're bringing to. Go to the last page, the governor's budget highlights, that's stuff they're gonna be working on. And then we basically talked about on the second to last page, the birds and the town and so.
And there's a plethora of information on the NDACO
Yeah.
website, ndaco.org. And then there's also the Association of County Commissions, that there's a link on that, and I think it's NDCCA maybe.
Yes,
That
I
org.
think you're right.
But they've been working on, the Association of County Commissioners have been working on a county commissioner handbook that they're getting online and updating some of the do's and don't do's as a county commissioner.
Aaron Burris.
Aaron Burris is the
Can't
chairman of
remember
the
the lady's name.
Danielle Kresge.
Right, there you go.
Yeah. And Danielle is also the head of the Auditors Association,
Auditor treasurer,
auditor treasurer, as
sheriff.
well as the sheriff. Is she Highway 2, Kevin?
No. Jenny Dykstra.
Oh, yeah. No. But the Association of Counties is a really good organization that Ramsey County belongs to, it has for ever. And Association of County Commissioners is another good avenue to lean on and get information from. But yeah, and we pay in our annual dues to them.
Well, the very first item on the last page at 18.4 billion, that's what.
The governor's, yeah, the governor's
There's
budget.
only 1 billion available.
No,
I mean, it was a good hour,
yeah.
good discussion.
So Blaine is our representative on the legislative committee for the Association of Counties. So Commissioner Wolf will be updating us on everything regarding session from here on to first part of May.
There's gonna be a lot.
It's a lot, and I'm a kind of a political junkie, and I love to go on and watch the video streams of the committee meetings and the floor sessions and all that kind of stuff. Andy Ledge has made a really good commitment to make that accessible to everybody in the state and around the world, really. You can go on and watch whatever committee meetings on whether it be live or stream it afterwards, and whatever bill you want to follow. So, and NDACO has a legislative blog, and that they'll update and send reminders to, that whatever bills they're tracking or introduce that will pertain and affect the counties, they will let us know. And they do a really, really good job of that, and have in the past, and I expect no different in the future, so. So that's all I think we have. It's been Any other further business? If not, meeting adjourned. Thank you all for sticking around.